Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Bet on People. I have Gazal Jhunjhuwala with me, and we know each other for I think about 5 years or so now. We went to the same college. I will spare you the details, but yeah, I think it's safe to say we had a blast, and I'm so happy that you're the first guest on this podcast, if I can call it that at this point. But yeah. So let me just introduce Ghazal to everybody that doesn't know Ghazal. She is a business analytics consultant, and I'm going to read the next bits because I can't memorize this, so bear with me. She uses data analytics to bridge the gap between business and IT. She assesses processes, determines requirements, and provides data-driven insights to stakeholders. Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, so I
Yeah.
just want to kind of break it down, like explain it to me like I'm five. What does that mean? What does a day to day look like?
So I have a highly client-facing role. So to explain it in very, very simple terms, so say you have a business, you come to us and say that, say you have a business where you're facing supply chain issues, right? So you come to us and say we're losing a lot of money and, et cetera, in supply chain, and a lot of our products are always out of stock, because of which we're losing sales and revenue, et cetera. So then we understand all aspects of that requirement and what you are doing currently to resolve that problem, and how that is not sufficient for you. So we understand the as is process and see how we can better it, what kind of data we would need to drive that, and basically understand the complete requirement, the business requirements, the functional requirements, and then uh, plan a complete solution around it to resolve the ultimate problem that was being faced by the stakeholders.
Okay. I still don't think that I understood that, but I'm happy that I'm sure people that are listening and I've probably understood this. Um,
So
but
let me say it another way. So I'm a business analyst, right? So I have to understand the client business to be able to analyze it, as simple as that. So I spend a lot of time trying to understand their processes and how we can better it, what kind of IT solutions we can provide to make that better, to to provide them insights into their business to see, look, this is what your trend is like, this is how it's been, this is what it was like previous year, this is what you did that seemed to work, this is what you did that didn't seem to work. Now, multiple factors, right, depending on which industry your client is in. So yeah, it has being a business analyst has a lot to do with bridging the gap, like you said at the beginning of this call, that it has a lot to do with bridging the gap between the business and the development team, because the development team is not going to understand business the way they say. So you have to kind of be the mediator and explain the problem according to who's listening, basically. So yeah, there has to be a different kind of conversation you have with, you understand the business requirements, and then you are the person that turns it into functional requirements so that your development team can understand it.
yeah, I think I've probably understood that now. And it's very interesting. You said that you have to study businesses a lot, right? But the degree that you have, and you might have done some courses or certifications after that. So, like I said, we went to the same college, we studied engineering. Do you think that had a role to play here, or did that help you in any way? Did you pick up some transferable skills from it?
So my mother also, very frequently asks me that question, like, does your education help you at all with the current role you have? Because she doesn't hear engineering in it at all when she asks me what I do. So it's a very common question. But the thing is, what the subjects that I had from semester to semester in college, I don't think I apply that theoretical knowledge. I don't apply in my job. But I feel like every experience in life shapes you to be who you are right now, good or bad, at whatever stage you are, right? So I wouldn't say that, I could have skipped college and I would have still been here, or I could have just completely done away with the whole concept of it and I would have still been here. I did a lot more different things in college as well. You were a part of so many of those things, and it's not just the MUNs or the public speaking or all of that. Those things help, but even other things, how your different experiences that you have, different situations that you handled in college, all of that, I think trains your brain. For me, I wouldn't completely, say that college didn't help me at all. But of course, I think your question more was to do with if electronics and communication engineering helps me be a better business analyst. So no, I don't use those topics anymore. I don't apply that knowledge in my job, but I do. I need to have a little bit of knowledge about uh, the technical stuff, basics of programming and things like that. So although it wasn't a part of my curriculum, I think we had one subject in one semester for it, but it was a lot of self-teaching and a lot of online courses, tutorials to, bridge that gap.
I just want to focus on the college aspect of it. You said that the degree probably didn't have a lot doesn't have a lot of impact on what you do today, but the experience, like the overall experience mattered. So do you think you could have gone to college, studied something else, and still arrived at this moment in your life of becoming a business analyst? Could you have studied something like journalism and become a business analyst?
No, I don't think I could have studied something that was completely another tangent altogether and still become a business analyst, because you ultimately are dealing with developers. You have to have that basic knowledge of technology and how programming works, to be able to even come up with solutions. Today I can't go to a developer and say, hey, just swing your wand and give me this solution. I have to know if it's feasible, right? So that kind of knowledge is still important. um, so you have to have some sort of technical, the Indian definition of technical background, or an engineering degree. Most companies also, when they hire business analysts, they do prefer them to have like a BTech at least. So yeah, I don't think I could be wrong, but as far as I know, at this point in life, I don't think if I had done like a journalism or a mass comm or um, like another a BA course or something, I could have been a good business analyst.
But you would have done something like BCA, like a Bachelor in Computer Applications or something, and
Yeah,
still,
maybe.
yeah, still been eligible or still understood.
Yeah,
I think because they have the same subjects, right? They do the basics of programming. I think they go into more detail compared to electronics and communication. But you did
yeah.
say
You
that.
have to speak both languages. You have
Mhm.
to speak a little bit of um, the technical language as well as the business language. Business language, I know you can. Uh, I think the technical knowledge is easier to gain over time. But the knack for problem solving, the knack to have a good understanding um, of gathering all the information that is required to know when you have all the information, those things I don't think can be taught very easily, unlike a programming language. So that kind of aptitude is, I think, more important than having technical knowledge.
And it sounds like uh, it has a lot to do with things that you did which were in line with like Model United Nations, because that's exactly what we did, right? We had a problem statement, we
Yeah,
researched the heck out of it, and then we came together to form a resolution. And you had to sort of solve the issue, and we solved like world problems in 2 days, but actually three
yeah,
days maybe. But I mean, I think that makes more sense to me, because even when I think about the aptitude test that we have to give when trying to get into college or trying to get a job, those are pretty, I mean, pretty standard basic questions that if you practice enough, you will get it. Like there's a formula to it, or there's some knack to solving that. And some people actually even memorize those questions, the way to like answer them. So
Yeah.
do you think that it had more to do with your outside interests, your extracurriculars, um, even dance for that matter, right? You had
Yeah.
to sort of organize um, the entire club and get permissions and do all of that. That kind of management sort of transfers into your current role.
Yeah, I do a lot of management. Currently, the current role that I have is that of also of a project manager. So I'm like a business analyst slash project manager at the moment. And I completely agree with you. All of these other things that I did in college, all the MUNs, the dance competitions, being, I think we had a newsletter that would go out periodically. I don't remember. Um, but I remember working on articles and editing and all of that. So I realized that I really enjoyed doing that kind of work. You know, at one point I even thought I would be an event manager because I just like so much being involved in these things and organizing all of these events and participating in all of that. So it took me a while to realize my strengths. And yes, these things really had a huge contribution to my self development and for me to realize that you're good at you are a people person. You're good at interactions, you're good at speaking, you're good at um, you know you have the skills that a business analyst would need. And so this I've actually realized after becoming a business analyst that, oh, I did have these skills already. I just didn't know that I could be a business analyst with these skills, you know? So I'm very thankful to the company that I work in right now. They identified my strengths and said that you'd be good as a business analyst and that we're hiring you as a business analyst. And it might sound bizarre to everybody else, at the point it was bizarre to me also, but it really worked for me. When I was interviewing, I didn't know what role exactly. So I knew it was something to do with data analysis and business analysis. I knew all of that. So I had read up a lot, but I didn't know which role exactly, you know? So, and I had a huge interview process. I remember my first one was, I think, for 2.5 hours. And they gave me a case study and it was um, it was really simple, and by simple I mean that while I was doing the case study, and I obviously was shitting bricks because I didn't know what I had gotten myself into or what I would even come up, with questions and things like that or solution to that case study. I had no idea. But then the interviewer, through his questions, made me just realize that I'm good at this and I can do this and I have a strong analytical mind, so yeah, I'm sorry. I think I've completely lost track of what your question was.
No, this is great. I was actually gonna get to that. So it almost seems like you had that aha moment that this is a job for me when you were interviewing. But I want to come back to that and just talk about like what happened after college. I mean, we stayed in touch obviously, but um, with career wise, right? You had a different job. You probably had a different role entirely at a different company. Um, and then you eventually made the move here, right? So what led up to that? Like, I mean, it's fine if you want to take it chronologically, or maybe that was just like one moment where you're like,
Um,
screw it, I'm done. Um, but what was that moment for you?
so, so there isn't one moment, to be honest. It was a buildup of a lot of moments, and also I was stupid for a very long time. Like I can say that now. Um, so the job that I had before, um, it was a great company to be a part of, no doubt about it. But I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. I wasn't, I felt like I wasn't learning much, or I wasn't challenging myself enough. It wasn't giving me that opportunity to even challenge myself. Um, it didn't require the skills that I had and that I wanted to um, enhance and develop even more. So, but you know how it is, right? Right after college, all your friends are working, you want to be working as well. Um, I was getting a salary at the end of the month, and it took me a while. I was kind of, for a very long time, I was suppressing the fact that I'm unhappy with this job. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to make the most of it, and let's see where it takes me. But it took me a long time to accept that you don't like what you're doing. Even if it takes you two steps further, you still won't like what you're doing. So why don't you just, try to change it? So it was a series of moments. There was not one trigger or one, okay, tomorrow I'm just going to get up and I'm going to change my life. It was never like that. Over time, and obviously talking to a lot of people, I had very little to no idea actually about the world of data and data analytics and all of this. I had some friends who were working in this industry and who were really thriving and doing well. So the thing that, you know, interested me most about working in this industry was the fact that I would get to know about so many other industries by being a business analyst, or being, I didn't know I wanted to be a data analyst, so being in the data world. Okay. So you have different clients who come from different industries. You have healthcare, you have e-commerce, you have so many others, right? Finance, banking, so many other sectors. So I think that was most um, intriguing for me, that, with one job, I can learn about so many industries. So that was very interesting to me. And then every time, everybody, all the people that I had around me, they were like, you speak so well, you should try to, be a consultant, you'd be good at client interactions, and then, you have a good command and all of that. So these are the little things you pick on, and then you hold on to them and try to build yourself around it. Is at least what I did. I wasn't spending a lot of time trying to understand my skills, my skill sets, which I should have. I really should have cut out all the noise and, concentrated and try to identify what I am good at. But lucky for me, I had a lot of people around me telling me, um, I was reaching out to a lot of people, and then they, as feedback, told me that you'd be good at this and that you should consider it. So then I decided that if I'm going to change my job, I am going to look for something in data. Yeah, that's how it started. There was, and also I read this one post. You keep scrolling on Instagram, you see so many posts, and most of them are cheesy, or okay, yeah, they're all good in theory, easier said than done. But there was one that really stuck with me. It said, what you're not changing, you're choosing. So, and then I realized that I am so unhappy right now. I hate my job. I don't even have the confidence to go out and speak to people right now, because I don't feel like I'm doing enough in my life. And I'm not doing enough to change it. So I guess I'm choosing this then. So it was like maybe that was like a final
Yeah.
this thing, to just seal my decision of looking out and, try to change, seriously try to change, and not just,
I,
keep talking to people and then have nothing come out of it.
so then, is it safe to say that back in college you didn't know that? I mean, you probably knew that there are jobs in the data industry, but you didn't know what jobs you could get, or how would one go about that?
Yeah, I was extremely underconfident at that point for various reasons, but I just never thought I was good enough um, to, like, if I applied to some place and I would get it and then I would actually do well in that role. I just never thought I was good enough, you know. Um, I still have those moments. Obviously, I mean, it's not gone away completely, but I feel like if I don't try, I will not know. Like that understanding has set in now that you've got to try and you can't just decide for yourself without trying. It's not fair. Um, and there's no harm in trying. I mean, we really sometimes you got to find the balance between giving yourself too much importance when needed and then also not giving yourself that much importance. I mean, you can't feel like the whole world is revolving around you and things like that. So if you fail, it's okay. There will be, I know it sounds I don't mean to sound like a motivational speaker right now, but I really realized this over time that I could have taken more risks. And if I had failed, big deal. I mean, I don't even think it would have mattered after a point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think taking accountability for your life and your life's decisions, because nobody is really putting a gun to your head and telling you that you
Yeah.
have to do this or that you have to be unhappy. But I think that that's a gender narrative. Because I remember when I had this conversation with my father, and he was like, nobody likes a job. As a matter of fact, like no one likes a job. So what is it about, you not wanting to continue and just do this and do an MBA? Because that's a general thing. Like you get a degree in engineering, you work at some amazing company for 2 years, then you get an MBA, and then you have like this amazing package, and then everything else like falls into the picture, right? You get the house, you get the car, get married,
The
have kids.
formula.
Yeah, that's exactly like the upper middle class Indian dream, right? Just be
Mm.
settled, just get settled and find a good
Yeah.
person to find a good partner and have kids, and because otherwise you're not successful. If you don't have the house and you don't have a car and you don't have yada yada yada, you're not what the Indian society would like look at you.
Settled.
Yeah, settled, like just
Yeah.
like settled.
Yeah.
And even with the job, this entire concept that I think people like us millennials have, right? If you're not happy at a job, you can change it. I think that it's just bizarre to the older generation. Like, what do you mean that you're not happy? What do you mean you want to switch? Because they've been
Yeah.
ingrained with this concept of just being loyal.
Slogging it out.
Yeah, just being. I mean, my father spent. I mean, he's been in the same industry for like the last 39, I want to say, years now. And that's a lot of time. Like he spent his entire life doing one thing. He's great at it. He just doesn't want to admit it that he likes doing what he does. But that's the kind of thing. Like I couldn't imagine doing the same thing over and over again. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be in the same industry, but I still want to kind of explore what's out there, and it's just like an alien concept to people. So let me try to figure this
Yeah.
out. So you're done with college, you get a job because everybody else has a job. You kind of go on autopilot, repress feelings of unhappiness and all of that. And then you start to realize that there's something else out there, but you're not sure yet. That Instagram post comes in. So now you know that you have to make a change. So, how did you go about the entire process of looking for the right positions? What websites did you use, or did you reach out to somebody who kind of mentored you or something?
There. So yeah, I spoke to a lot of people. Um, I you know, relatives of friends or friends of friends who were working in similar industry. I did try to reach out to them and see how if they could, give me a better idea of what I should be expecting, what kind of roles there are. It was difficult for me to, there's only so much you can Google. After that, you need to understand like a real life example. You need to understand, you need to know how it is in the real world, and not like a Google definition of XYZ things, right? You need to understand. So I did speak to a lot of people. Um, but because I wanted to, so I was in the previous role for 3 years. And then I wanted to switch my field. So that made those 3 years completely irrelevant to my next employer, right? So I had decided I was okay to be hired as a fresher. Um, even after 3 years, I'm like, I understood my situation. Like I can't expect them to, from for them to give me a role where I get to learn this from scratch. And then at the same time, I want a salary or I want a position or a designation based on my 3 years of experience. I can't expect that, right? So I had decided that I'm okay to join as a fresher. Eventually, it'll be better. I'll at least like what I'm doing, and stuff like that. So um, there was no fixed process. I obviously started with updating my resume and making it sound. Um, I mean, I barely had anything to put in there to make it ready for a data analyst role or the anything in the data role, right? So I put everything down. Then I was having my CV reviewed by people who are in higher positions in these industries, and I got really, really good feedback, and I was able to work with that feedback. I made a lot of changes, etc. And so I didn't, obviously, you have these websites, job consultancies. None of that worked for me uh, because I wasn't face to face speaking to anybody or giving my introduction over a call. It was all online, and then my previous experience was completely irrelevant. It's not like I can show 3 years of gap, because then that's a red flag as well, right? So what worked with me was my brother at the time was working with a real estate company in Bangalore. They build and manage co-working spaces. So he was speaking to a lot of these directors and India heads of these companies who were starting out in India or in Bangalore, or the administration of those companies. He was speaking to a lot of those people, and he had like just started that role as well. So he was speaking to a lot of those people, and he said that, didn't you mention you wanted to get into data something? There is this company, they do a lot of data, and there are actually a couple. Why don't you send your resume to me? There is this one in particular that we really like working with, so maybe they're really nice, you should send, and all of that. So I said, okay. And by then, mind you, this was after a year and a half, at least, after I decided that I want to leave and I want to change. Year and a half of being extremely unhappy, right? And nothing working out. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to just go with the flow. If something has to work out, it'll work out, kind of a situation. So I just sent my CV to him, and then he must have forwarded it, or he'd send me contacts of those people. He had said that, my sister's looking, so if you guys are hiring, please let me know. This, like, yeah, some were. So they sent me their, they asked me to send my resumes to them, which I did. And so I didn't really get, I obviously got a call back from a couple of them. But the first interview that I went for, so the company that I work for right now, they were very quick. They were like, okay, yeah, why don't you come down for an interview sometime next week, so and so. So I was like, okay. And I remember my mom was visiting at the time. She was in Bangalore, and then like, okay, she's leaving on Tuesday. I'm going to be bummed on Wednesday, so let's go for the interview on Thursday. Like, I was that done with the whole process, right, of nothing working out. Yeah. So I met with them on Thursday. I had about 2 rounds. The first round was, like I said, it was a 2.5 hour long case study, which was so interesting for me. I learned so much in that 2.5 hours, not just about business analysis or data analysis, but also about myself, right? So it was really nice. So they actually gave me an e-commerce case study. And because the previous company that I was on was an e-commerce industry, I had some background of what e-commerce is like, right? So I I think they had asked me to, they asked me to come up with questions and answers or any insights that I can provide based on the data set in front of me. And I think I had about half an hour to 40 minutes to analyze the data set and everything. And I was able to come up with some 10, 15 insights that I could provide based on that data set. Not knowing that a large part of business analysis is also to provide insights after data analysis. I had no idea. I was really, really going with the flow. So I had the interview, and then I was actually underselling myself a lot in the interview. I realize now, because I didn't have the technical experience. I In my head, it was such a big red flag for me that it was showing in my interview as well. And then my interviewer told me the technical bit is like the toppings on the ice cream. You have your ice cream cone, you have the ice cream scoop. It's just the toppings that you're missing, which you can pick up. You're good at the rest of it, is what he told me. So later. So that was very, very motivating, because after a year and a half of feeling like a loser and feeling like you're not getting anywhere, to have a person who's that much senior in a company give you good feedback, it was really, really nice. Yeah, and then after that, I had another round. That was a quicker one. That was more about, if I have any questions for them, I think that round was so quick, I don't even remember it. Yeah, it was more about what I'm expecting and that kind of thing. So I more or less knew that if they were trying to discuss my salary expectations at that point, like the good, right? I'm good, right? It was
Yeah.
that kind of a thing, but I had not heard directly. And they told me that they'd get back to me in a day or two, they'd make a decision. And I actually had office after that interview. So I remember I was doing some weird shift at that time. So I had to log in at like a 5 p.m. or something. So I went to work and I was having dinner. And the whole time I was like, I just wasn't thinking about it. I was so done that I just wasn't thinking about it at all. Like it didn't come to my mind that I have given an interview today, you know? So, and then the next day I got an email saying that they want to move forward with it. And then, yeah, that was it. I accepted the offer. I liked the role I was getting. The onboarding was very seamless, very nice, very easy. Um, they even invited me to a company outing that was going to happen even before my joining day. They said it's just a nice opportunity for you to familiarize yourself with everybody. And it was that time, it was a relatively small number of people. Now we've grown. It was really nice. And then I broke my foot, so I had to delay my joining, and then I couldn't even attend that outing. But eventually I joined in like November 2019. I was supposed to join in the beginning of October.
Wow. So it's almost been about like it's about to be 2 years, right? This year.
Year and a half now, yes.
Yeah, year and a half. And do you still feel like an imposter? Do you still feel like, oh, I need a degree, I need to get certified, I need to do a course? Do you still feel like that?
Oh, so initially, um, I was a nervous wreck. For the first easily 3-4 months, I was so nervous all the time, right? Because I joined, and from the first day onwards, I was never on the bench. I had this project to work on, and it was an ongoing project that I was joining midway. So, there's so much you need to catch up on. And then I had no idea how the world of data works. I don't know what technologies, like I had done SQL courses. I knew it in theory. I had never practically done it. And then I had to, because I was the BA on the project, right? But lucky for me at that time, I had a lot of people to help me in office. There are about 2-3 people whose advice I took very seriously, and I would go to also for advice saying, I don't understand any of this. Can you please explain it to me simply? I remember for the first couple of days, I didn't even know what the project is about or what they do, you know. Then I had to understand the whole architecture of it. What are they doing? What is the objective? It took a while, to get used to everything. And I used to come back, and I think I used to spend hours Googling stuff. Like all day I would hear these phrases and terms that I didn't understand at all. I would note them down, and then I would come back and I would Google, and I would really, call people, same people who had, guided me, saying you'd be good at that, just to call them and say, have you worked on this? Do you know what this is? What do you use it for? And things like that. So yeah, so I was a BA, I think, from November 2019 till October last year, for about 11 months. And then I took up the role of a project manager completely right now. So yeah, I already feel like I've learned. So this is what was missing in my previous role, I didn't have that opportunity to learn as much, so much. So yeah, it's the best thing that I like about my job right now. There's always something to learn.
So there's these people that you reached out to, there are these people in your network, and also you got your resume reviewed by a couple of people, right? How did you come across them? Because I think that's something that's really important. The power of
Yeah.
having people in your network who are not probably in the same boat as you. Because I know of a lot of people when I was working in my previous company, there were a lot of people who were just as unhappy. But because you get a salary at the end of every month, it's like a drug. Like they keep you hooked, and you're
Yeah.
not thinking about,
You
oh,
get
I'm
too
unhappy,
comfortable.
I shouldn't. Yeah, you're just in this comfort zone where you're like, okay, I don't like it, but what else am I gonna do? Because it's just impossible to start thinking about what else you can do. And I feel like at that point, if I had somebody telling me that, oh, there's this and there's that, I mean, it's also on me because I didn't probably reach out to people as much as I should have.
Yeah.
So just trying to understand, like, were these people that you already knew? Or did you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn? Did you find that useful? Because LinkedIn has that feature where you
Um,
can reach out to people.
yeah, it does. So like you said, I think it was the same for me. Um, I didn't ask for help when I should have. I wasted a lot of time. I could have saved a lot of time, energy, everything, by just asking for help, right? I was too, like, I'm going to figure it out on my own. I don't need help. There's nothing wrong in asking for help. And I realize that now. I mean, when people reach out to me now, um, it's so normal. And then I used to always think that, the person that I'm asking, going to go to ask for help, they're gonna, have a certain notion about me because I'm asking for help, or think I'm weak or something like that. I was so naive back then. Anybody who's watching this, ask for help. It's the
Yeah,
best thing you can do for yourself. Speak to people, ask for help. It's as simple as that. 3 words: ask for help. Don't avoid it. Don't think you can
absolutely.
just manage it. There's nothing wrong, even if you don't agree with, or even if their suggestion does not work for you. You have still learned that this doesn't work for you, right? So you can just put that on the side and then find another approach to go with. So coming back to your question, the people that I spoke to, who I requested to review my resume, are people I knew, like friends of friends, or um, I had this other friend in college. So his brother is doing very well professionally. So I had even spoken to him occasionally, I think, when we were in college. So I reached out saying, hi, I'm really struggling with the role I'm in. I want to do so and so. So the first step is for me to build my CV. So I have, and can you please review it? So yeah, that's him, and couple of relatives of mine again who are doing well. So I reached out to them saying, can you review my CV? Can you any kind of guidance? Sometimes it doesn't have to be like, this is where you need to apply, this is how you need to speak. Sometimes even just pacifying you mentally, that also helps so much. I remember when I was applying left, right, and center, like I told you, right, a year and a half of applying and not getting. So I knew, I was confident enough that if I get to an interview, I'll make it. That much I knew. But the fact that my experience was so irrelevant, even getting that interview was becoming very, very difficult for me, right? And I was applying everywhere and nothing was seeming to work out. And I remember talking to my uncle about this, and then he said the best thing. He said, so you need one job, you don't need 10 jobs. one will work
True.
out. I mean, you apply to 100 jobs, you don't need those 100 jobs, you need one job, right?
Yeah.
So, and that stuck with me. And then, yeah, so that was actually very helpful advice. And it, made me keep going. And all those time issues that I used to make, that I'm working here 11 hours every day, when do I have the time to study and apply to other places? I remember the one thing he said to me was, if Jeff B can run Amazon in 24 hours, I think you and I can find time. And I was like, yeah, you can't say anything to that. And it's true, you can't be complaining.
That's true.
So yeah, I
I
mean, it
mean,
made a lot of sense to me.
if you, I mean, a lot of us don't have that option where you can just quit and then start your job
Yeah.
hunting process and do all of that. And I think that that's the best advice that my father gave me. And I didn't agree with it at that point, and maybe some part of me still doesn't agree with that. Um, but he basically said, you're not going to quit until you find another job because I'm not going to support you. So you have to keep doing that, right? And it was impossible. I mean, it was nearly impossible the way that I was going about it. I again didn't ask for help, and even when I did, it was probably asking the wrong people, right? Even that uh, has a huge impact on what you're trying to do because you ask people who are happy doing what they're doing, or they just don't care. And I think I should say this out loud, right? A lot of people are okay doing what they're doing. They don't like what they're doing, but they're okay with it. Because I used to see that a
Because it's
lot. I mean,
comfortable.
it's comfortable, right? You don't want
Yeah.
to challenge yourself, and I think that's fine. That's fine because that's how you choose to live. But it didn't really work for me, obviously. I just didn't work for you either. But this 1.5 years of you applying to jobs and then not hearing back from them, obviously, I mean that's a lot because you would you might have chosen company that you knew of, and you're probably applying for fresher jobs, but your experience was considered irrelevant. So you never heard back from anybody. You would apply and you never heard back.
Yeah. So there's this one really sad incident. So I think I was going over to a friend's place for, I think, a board game night or something, and I'd taken a pool cab in Bangalore. And there was this guy who boarded the cab with me, young guy. He started talking, so we were chatting, and then I asked him where he works. I was so frantically looking for another job at that time, so I was even speaking to strangers about where they're working and all of that, right? I just discovered this new world of networking and how talking to people can give you so much information. So I was talking to everybody now, right? So I spoke to this guy and he's like, oh, I work for this company. Yeah, we're into this is this data. I was like, are you hiring? Okay. And then he's like, yeah, do you have experience? So I made it sound like whatever analytics I had done in my previous role, I really tried to amplify that. And he said, you know what, I'm going to get in touch with you, get you in touch with my HR. Why don't you speak to her and see, if there is a position or if they're hiring and all of that. I said, okay. And then I spoke to her. And then I was so underconfident because I didn't have that experience that again, I was underselling myself. And then she figured that I don't have relevant experience. So she's like, why don't you do some courses or here and there online and then try again? Which it wasn't direct feedback. It was a little vague. So I didn't know what to make much of it, but all I could figure was that they're not going to go forward with it or even process the application. So, which is fine. I mean, it was another learning for me because they had a very specific job description. They had very specific things they wanted out of the person. So, I mean, now that I know what those things are, now that I understand it after spending a year and a half in this industry, I feel like those are things that anybody can pick up on the job. Everything I know about being a business analyst so far, I have picked up on the job. Everything I know about project management so far, I have picked up on the job, right? So these are not things that cannot be taught. So I guess that's where bet on people comes in, that you should look beyond resumes and experiences.
I think you
um,
you sort of have to because A lot of people, like, okay, maybe you and I seem bad on paper, right? But we have that mindset, that sort of growth mindset that you want to keep learning. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily subscribe to that mentality. But also, a lot of these job descriptions, they're ridiculous. I mean, even for marketing. And I just randomly look at this. I mean, I'm casually just browsing through these descriptions, and they'd be hiring a content marketer, and they want this content marketer to create a content strategy. They want this person to handle the content editorial, all of the analytics, all of the reporting, paid ads, organic, everything, you know. So, and those are different, those are different roles. So if you want one person to be able to do everything, then you're not really looking for one person. You're looking for an entire marketing team that will just like kind of fit that in. And then the kind of degrees that they want, I think that it's a little more lax. But yeah, they definitely prefer somebody who has a degree in marketing, an MBA in marketing, or some sort of like mass comm English background. It helps. But yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Like all of what I know today, like I think just like you, I picked up almost everything on the job. I think 1% of it is obviously just knowing English, right? Just knowing how to communicate, because
Yeah.
that has been built up over time. It wasn't like I just decided that I was gonna write. I knew that I liked it, so I decided to like go along with it. But I think that's been the hiring philosophy that we have, right? It's just value will over skill. Is this person willing to learn? Have they
Love that.
demonstrated
Hashtag
an
it.
incident? Yeah, will over skill. I mean, so this is one of the
Will over
questions.
skill for sure. Even today, sorry to interrupt you, but even today, when say I was looking for an additional resource for my team, and then the management asked me, okay, go ahead, look for people. What exactly are you looking for in that role? And then I'm like, if I list out a job description, I would never be hired. You know, if I was looking for those things, I would never be hired, right? So I guess definitely looking for people who are willing to learn, who are quick to pick things up, and communication skills is very, very important. And I don't mean by communication, I don't mean you have to have the best grammar or the best vocabulary.
You don't need to be Shashi Tharoor.
You don't need to be, yeah, or Sneharatna, but you, um, but then you have to be a good listener. You have to know how to moderate the information based on who you're giving that information to. You can't talk about programming and technical stuff to the business clients. You can't do that. They're not going to get it, right? And the same way, you can't talk about business terms with the developers. You're going to have to convert it into technical terms and vice versa, right? So you have to know how to do that. You have to be a damn good listener. It's so important. I know when people talk about communication skills, they don't really include listening in it, but I feel it's very, very important. And yeah, just be able to put your point across um, in simple terms, and it works. Everything else you can pick up. I feel you have to, um, and I think curiosity is another important trait to have. I know that I am very curious, and I feel like my curiosity and the questions that I asked, even before I got the job, and then even after I, got onboarded, I think that has helped me get a lot of information. Has helped me figure things out better. Asking questions, being curious.
So what do you see for yourself, maybe in the like the next, I know it's a very difficult question, but the pandemic
It
is
is.
full on right now. Um,
Nothing goes to plan.
yeah,
Nothing
nothing.
goes
I
to
think nothing
plan.
goes according to plan. But have
Yeah.
you thought about like the possible future? Like, do you see yourself in the same industry? You see yourself doing the same thing that you're doing, or is there something else that you'd like to learn or make another
See,
switch?
I'm going to have a very cliched answer to this, but it is true for me. Ultimately, in life, I want to be financially, physically, and mentally comfortable enough to have my own little cafe and run it with all my heart, have a farm to table concept, grow my own veggies in my backyard, have a backyard first of all, be comfortable enough to have a backyard, grow my veggies, eat it, have a simple life. That's my ultimate goal. But I right now I'm quite enjoying being in this industry. I really want to learn more. There are certain things that I want to work on. So I really want to execute that plan. There's a certain position I want to attain. So if you're asking me in the next 5 is, I think, a lot. Um, I can just tell you generally, I haven't planned year by year. So just generally, I do really enjoy being in the industry I'm in right now. I want to grow in my current role, and I want to work on different things, have different kind of responsibilities, interact with different kind of people, um, see how different it is, at the top, interact with people who've in the same organization, but doing completely different things. Like, when I speak to an analyst or a consultant, whereas a VP, right? The thought process itself is so different, and that is very interesting to me. Like, I want to know what um, a days of work is like for a VP. Like, I want to know what kind of decisions they're making, what are the things they're working on. I want to know that kind of thing also. Uh, so there are a couple of things that I know if I attain a certain position, I'll get to work on, and those things are very interesting to me. So right now, my plan is to get there and gain that experience as well.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure which company that I've seen this. They let interns or new employees kind of run that, um, like a day in the VP shoes or the CEO shoes. And obviously, you're not making those actual decisions, but I think it's a good teaser into like what it looks like the day to day. Maybe like shadow somebody and then just kind of,
Shadowing,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's how you learn,
That's
I
a
think.
very interesting concept. I would love to get that opportunity at least to shadow my CEO for a day.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that would be very interesting because you learn so much just from seeing how other people interact. Because for me, that's how I've learned what I know, which is very limited, but how to sort of do a product demo. I've learned by shadowing, the sales head or just listening to recordings, trying to pick up on what kind of terms that they use, how do they make the person comfortable, and then also getting a lot of critical feedback. Because I think feedback is just so important, and people just probably like look at it. And again, I'm saying people, I'm generalizing here, but at the end of every year, right, whenever your appraisal comes around, it's not so much about like, oh, you're going to get a hike. It is part of it, but also just getting that kind of feedback, right? What you've done over the entire year, what kind of impact has it had? Getting feedback, constructive feedback. You don't want people to give you negative feedback, and I hope that doesn't happen. But just knowing where your weaknesses are and what your strengths are and working on them, that is so important because that's how you grow. Again, a lot of it has to do with the company that you work for, and this is something that I've realized. You probably also don't work for a company, you work for people. So if the people around you, your managers or your colleagues, they're great, you are bound to succeed. If they don't care about what they do, or if it's just like, you're another cog in the wheel, it's less likely that you feel happy and satisfied if you have that sort of like mentality like you and I do, right? Otherwise, I'm sure you can be happy. And that's a very strange concept. Like, how do you define happiness? How do you define success? And it's so cute, like that whole cafe idea. That's great, but it's also strange when you
I
think
think
about it,
everybody
right?
has a cafe idea in their head.
Yeah, and
But I've
it's so
even thought of a
strange.
name for it. So I
Yes,
think,
go on.
yeah.
No,
No,
we
I'm not gonna.
oh, you're not
It's
gonna say
embarrassing.
it can't be embarrassing, and we've had embarrassing email IDs, right? Like it can't be more embarrassing than
Yeah.
that. I have an email, and please do not try
I
to
feel
email
like we're on the
me.
verge of opening a can of worms, so swiftly moving forward,
No,
I think.
I
But
literally I have this email address that says other than love. Like other than love. I don't know what I was thinking.
Sneh, if I was, if this was a question that I got saying who, which of the following people does this ID belong to? And Johnny was one of the options, I would have picked you. I swear, this is so eccentric and you.
No, there's a story
It's
behind
very
it, but
you.
it's embarrassing. But I wouldn't like, and I legit I did not change my Gmail address to something a little more, professional sounding for a very
So
long time.
good.
I used another address, which is even more embarrassing, SRC
So you
Music
kept handing out
327.
other than love?
No, no, not Upton Love. I moved to Gmail. Like I made the move from I think Outlook to Gmail. But I had
Hmm.
another ID which was SRC, my initials, music, because I love music, and 327. Because that was my birthday and my brother's birthday. So that was my email.
Oh.
I honestly did not move to like this professional email address until I think about like 6, 7 months into my first job, and that's when I realized, I need I need a different Gmail address. I can't be handing this out.
I just copied my sister's. I don't even have a story. I just copied my sister's. I like added an extra J to it, and that's it.
So what is this cafe's name? Don't worry, I'm probably no.
I
I think
will
you should keep it there though.
I will tell
You
you
should
later.
patent this, like yeah, copyright this. Because honestly,
I'm
like
sure
this
there is one
entire
already.
idea, yeah, I'm very sure. Because honestly, just setting this up on Instagram and Twitter, and I've realized that this is a very common name people wanted. Thankfully, I got it on Instagram, but everywhere else, I've had to sort of like add TV, which makes sense because this is like watching TV with me every other week and someone else.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a thing. Like the domain that I want to purchase, by the way, and I don't know if it's going to make it to this podcast now. betonpeople.com is not available. So I reached out to the person that owns it, and they got back to me saying that they want 35,000 USD for it.
What?
So I'm like, this close is just changing the name, and I'm like, oh, really? I don't need a website. I don't need a website. The newsletter is enough, so it's fine. But yeah, we're digressing. So, what does success look like to you? Is it just being able to get to the very top in the industry, like you said, getting that sort of experience, being financially stable to the point where you can then start your cafe? Is that like long-term success?
You the cafe is it's as good as a passing thought, but yeah, sure. Let's say end goal. Let's call it one of my end goals.
One of your end goals, yeah.
Yeah. Success to me, it's a very difficult question. I mean, sounds simple, but I don't really have um, financial success is important. I want to have a comfortable life and not worry about finances. So that is important. And then like in my head, I'm thinking that I want to also be happy. But then I feel like if I'm financially comfortable and then my physical and mental health is also good, then I guess that will drive happiness.
So I just have one last question, Gazal, because I know that we've
Yes.
been talking and talking, and this feels like it can go on forever. What would you say to yourself, like maybe like 3 years ago? What would you say to yourself back then? And it's okay, like we can end it on a cliche. I want to end it on like a cliche positive note. So if you could travel back in time, or you could tell yourself that something, um, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
Uh, um, the fact that I think, again, I would big believer in, I would tell myself, listen, shut up and ask for help. Um, don't, everybody around you is asking for help. It's just you that thinks that you can, do it on your own. And, you don't have that knowledge, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I would definitely say that. And then I would also say, don't sweat the small stuff. Um, those things have a tendency of falling into place. So focus on what's really important. And tough questions, Sneh. I don't know what there's so much I want to say. Like in
Yeah,
the
it's just
past
that
three
I just
years,
like the concept of time travel, right? So I'm just like, I'm trying to fit it in wherever. No, I think that those are very important things because it it is cliched, no doubt about it. But I think that just we forget all of this, right? We forget the whole point of we feel like our decisions are absolute. Like if you do this, then you
sorry, I
have
didn't
to
get that. Our decisions are
absolute. Like if I do this, and even with like let's say just getting on this podcast, right? I was like, hey, let me reschedule or let me just do this another day. Um, but you can't edit stuff out. You can if you make a decision and it turns out to be a bad one, that doesn't mean that you have to keep doing what you're doing. You're not stuck. It's
there's
just in
always
your
a way.
head.
Yeah.
There's always a way out. There's always like where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah.
That's so true. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
again,
unless, one other thing I would tell myself is that stop lying to yourself, until and unless you decide that you need to do this and you identify the problem, and then you work towards doing it. Nobody else. There can be people who sit you down every single day. They try to understand your personality and tell you your skill set and even refer you to a job. Imagine somebody who does everything. Even then, it may not work out if you don't want it to. And then
yeah,
there's a flip side to it also, right? Like every not everything around you has the power to affect you unless you let it in.
mm,
So basically, everything has to come from within. You have to decide that you want better and that you deserve better. And then you have to decide that where you are right now is not what you have to accept the fact that, okay, yeah, a mistake was made, but you need to find a way to, you know, uh, it has to come from within. Like obviously I had people around me telling me you're better than this, you should do something else. Maybe this is not aligned with who you are. There were people telling me all of that, including family, right? But um, it took me a while to accept it and understand that, yeah, a wrong decision was made, but there is a way to rectify it.
yeah. I think that that's very important because if you don't have that sort of self-awareness about what you're doing, it's not working out, and if you're not receptive to people's feedback, I think it's very difficult to sort of like you're just gonna stay in that sort of like comfort zone, right? It is comfortable. I'm not gonna deny that it's not. Like getting a salary is just it's great. Like you get a salary for just working and you may not like it, but you like the money for sure. So yeah, I think uh, just if you could go back and say that to yourself, I think definitely I'm sure that this experience would have been better. But it also makes you realize that you if you end up where you are, it doesn't matter how you got there. Almost it almost doesn't really. All of it is seems like it's worth it, right? Doing all of those things that you did, you probably wouldn't change it because you are happy where you are today. Like just happy in like a very generic sense, but you are where you want to be right now.
Yeah, I don't hate it like I used to before. I like it. I mean, yeah, I do enjoy where I am. I like the fact that I have so much to learn, and that my role is challenging me. So I like that. But then I also know that if I, wherever I was before, if I hadn't made the most of it there, I probably would not be doing as well as I'm doing. At least I think I'm doing well in the current role, right? Say, for example, like I said, I was working in the e-commerce industry before, and right now I'm working on an e-commerce project. So I am able to apply whatever little knowledge I was able to get from there uh, to this role. So at least that bit, I had to figure so much, right, when I joined. So at least this bit is what, I mean, obviously I had to read some more because now I had to understand everything about e-commerce, right, from supply chain to how do you name your products to codes, so many things, right? Uh, but I really feel like it gave me some sort of a head start, having that experience. Although, so it kind of became relevant. It wasn't relevant to my hiring process or it's not relevant to my job role
Yeah.
as a business analyst consultant, but it became relevant. So I'm just basically, I think, trying to, um, I think we've spoken about this already. We've been talking for so long, I've forgotten. But I
Yeah.
think we have. It kind of, in retrospect, I feel like it was all relevant.
No, I think that's what, even if it wasn't right, I think I'm sure you would have picked up a lot of skills that we don't necessarily talk about, right? Um, and nobody really prepares you for it until you're thrust into that environment where you just have to realize, okay, how do you deal with colleagues? How do you deal with managers? All of those things help, like no matter where you're working. And also, I
I
think
agree.
the
Yeah.
fact that you have this e-commerce project that you're working on, and then there was like this e-commerce industry that you were in, it makes a lot of sense. Even if it wasn't e-commerce, I think it would have still made sense to you uh, because of all the transferable skills that you picked up, right? Um,
It's
but
an
yeah,
interesting point you brought up about how to deal with management and how to be in a corporate space. My previous role really taught me that it's just not worth sweating the small stuff. There's a lot of stuff you just have to let go for the greater good. And like you said, talking to managers, how you should be handling people, colleagues, those are also skills that you pick up. And I think those things also really help me.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
no,
making the
nobody really
most out of it.
considers, puts them under the skill set bracket. I think it's very important to have the right
Yeah, I
attitude.
think those are very important because that actually contributes to your communication skills. How effective are you as a communicator, right? How do you communicate with your peers? How do you communicate with your manager? How do you communicate with clients if you've been in that sort of
Yeah.
role? It all counts. I think that's the whole point, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to college or you shouldn't work anywhere else. You should just figure everything out. But you should definitely look at everything as a learning experience. Everything. If you're not learning and if you're not growing, then you need to make a switch. If you can. Again, that caveat is there. If you can, make the switch. If you
Yeah.
can't, then, and again, I think again, I'm probably digressing. I might have to break this up into like several segments, but the whole gig economy, right? You should explore that for sure. There's a lot happening there. So if you are not sure about what you want to do, if you start doing like these micro projects or just figuring out like, okay, I want to do this internship, I want to figure this out. And in a lot of internships are part-time remote, right? So you can sort of give some of your time or even if it is on site, you figure out like where you only work on the weekends and you figure that out so that you have some relevant experience or you have some insight into what you want to do next. And it also helps you with additional revenue streams. So you're never really like in a position where
Yeah.
if I quit, I don't know where my,
Yeah.
where food's
It
coming
has a
from.
lot to do with how you want to value your time and how focused you are at bettering yourself.
No, but I was just saying that I wouldn't have really started this as I wouldn't have figured out that I want to do writing or I want to do content or marketing or any of that if my initial goal wasn't like I want to earn more money. For me, that was it. Like I was like, I need uh, more. Like I want to spend more, so I want to earn more, right? And that's where it started for me. Like eventually, what happened is I became unhappy with my role and everything, and that's sort of just lined up with that. But I think that it's a very important thing to do. Like just set up. I'm not saying you have to freelance or you have to be part of the gig economy and all of that, but you should definitely think about like additional revenue streams because it's a blessing in case you do lose your job and it's not your fault, it's like a pandemic related thing or something else, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like it just gives you a cushion for at least sometimes. So you're not in a position where you have to be like, oh, I need a job, but I don't know what job, or you just have to take a job because the problem is, right, and this is something that people don't understand. If you spend, let's say, 8 hours every day, Monday to Friday, some people also work on Saturdays, a huge chunk of your day, your life, you're working. And if all of that time, like if on a Monday you're waiting for the day to end and you're waiting for Friday to roll around, if you have a 2-day weekend, then there's something absolutely wrong with what you're doing. Because just being unhappy and upset, not being motivated for a huge chunk of your life just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're never gonna end this conversation. So I'm just gonna like
It's a great conversation.
so it's a great conversation for sure. I think I've been enjoying this more than I initially thought I would. It's also this I think it's the same hesitation that I had when it came to like making that decision, like, can I do this? Will I do this? Will I be able to do this? Right? Just hit start. Just do it. Just do it. You'll figure things out.
Yeah.
You will fail. You will fall, but you will figure it out. And just
If you
be
never try,
persistent.
you'll never know.
Yeah,
A
you miss
very Coldplay
100% of the
plug there.
shots. Yeah, you definitely miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? So you don't. I'm not
It's
saying
true.
that
Yeah. These things are cliches for a reason. They're true. I mean, if you think about
stereotypes.
it,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because you can say so much, right? Like I think we've been talking for I don't know how long, right? It feels like almost like an hour and a half, more than that. But when you have these cliches, right? Like every cloud has a silver lining, or every dog has its day. Those one-liners, it gives you a lot of insight when it starts to make sense to you,
yeah.
right? Like you can apply it to everything, and it makes a lot of sense. I think that's the whole universal appeal of it. But yeah, so if anybody is like listening, watching, I think it's just so important to just have like 3 seconds of courage and just do it. Like just hit publish,
Yeah.
just send out your resume to people. Just do it. And if you
I
fail, you fail.
agree.
That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. I think failure is something that people are so not okay with, and I think I'm not sure if that just applies to the Indian society, but a lot of people are so uncomfortable with failing. It's just like it's not in their DNA. It's not in our DNA to fail, to be okay with failing, to just look at failure as, oh, I'm going to learn something from it. No, it's just like, no, you have to succeed. There is no or else. It's just you have to succeed. Even if it means killing yourself, doing something you don't want to do, as long as you're getting a salary, you're a success. So you keep doing it. And that's just the whole, the problem that so many people have mental health issues and all of that because you spend so much of your time doing shit that you don't want to do.
Yeah. I can actually speak from experience. If I just had known better, I would have been able to save some time.
I don't know how to end this, like this conversation is so amazing. I don't even know how to end it because I feel like I've never even reached the end of a podcast, right? Like there are all these like snippets that I watched. I probably only watched Joe Rogan. And they just probably like just end it when the time ends, right? But there's just like no time limit here. And Zoom is not telling us. So So that's just like I think I should have done something. I should have got another person and then 40 minutes is that everything instead of like going round and round. But this is an amazing conversation. I have to say
It
that.
has been amazing. So insightful, so interesting.
Yeah. I just want to
So
thank you,
cool.
Gazal, for all the time that you put in. And I'm really not sure how long
Don't
it
be
took
silly. I have
you.
enjoyed myself.
Yeah, 2 hours. I was not off by that much. It's been 2 hours, but it didn't feel like
Yeah,
it.
it
I
has
feel
been.
like it just flew, right? This is like exactly
It
what I was
did.
talking
It
about. Like
did for
time,
sure. Yeah.
you perceive time very differently when you're enjoying yourself versus when you don't like it. It's like night and day.
Yeah,
So
of
yeah,
course. It's
thank you so much for agreeing to do this, for giving me 2 hours of your precious time on a Sunday of all days. So people who will be watching slash listening to this will that be on Thursday, but by then, hope this is edited and everything. And I wish you all the luck in your future endeavors. I do want to know what cafe you're gonna run, what are you gonna have, and everything. But I can so imagine you there. Like I just that's you, like that's the future Gazal. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you were the first guest that I had on this. This means the world to me.
that means so much to me as well. I've been so psyched about this ever since you brought it up. And I always knew that would be, like I told you, I was a nervous wreck the whole day. But then again, the fact that it was challenging for me and that it was something different was so good. And I always knew it would be great, but I didn't think I'd enjoy myself this much and not want to end even. So, yeah, thank you for having me. And I really had a good time. I hope, um, like, even if this helps one person, it's great, right? So yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing this. I really love the idea and I wish you all the best. Um, I know we talked about how this could grow into bigger things, and I really, really hope all of that happens.
I hope that pans out. But what you said is so true. I think the whole point of doing this is to help other people. So if you have questions about business, analytics, and data, you should reach out to Gazal. I will be dropping all of her links. I think LinkedIn is the best way to reach you, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
LinkedIn, reach out to Gazal, and just I hope that if you are unhappy, I hope that you can make the transition successfully. Okay, peace out, I guess.